The problem is they don't want you to feel safe. They want you to feel that there is somebody right outside the door. The only person stopping that criminal from coming into your house is the law, the fist of law and order. Hello, friends. Matt here again, coming back at you with part 2 of our hashtag defund the police Matt Christiansen response video. If you missed part 1, link is in the description, as well as I'm going to put a card in here. So go ahead and watch that if you want to know what we're talking about. Otherwise, I'm going to get right into the data of it all. So let's come to truth. What up, guys? Before we get into all the data and the analytics and the talk and discussion and all that fun stuff, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Just getting started here. Things are rolling right along. I did put a lot of work into this, and this one, and the next video. Was only intending to make 2, but it turned into 3, just because it took me so long to respond in that last one. But go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload new content, and without further ado, let's get into it. So, part 2 of the Matt Christiansen response video. If you didn't see it before, he was basically building up about 4 or 5 straw men arguments about defund the police. And the biggest one was barbarians at the gates. If we get rid of police, who's going to protect my stuff? Something I've seen through a lot of Republican and conservative social media and commentary is this barbarians at the gates. It's the well, if the police are gone, it'll just be chaos. Everyone's just going to run around committing crimes. It'll be like the Purge. And first off, if the only thing preventing you from committing crimes is the police, you're a criminal. The police aren't stopping you from doing anything. So that is what I've had the most success dealing with some of my white acquaintances, and most of my acquaintances, but the most success, but also the most struggle getting people past, is this thought that the police are the only thing keeping order, and that if you get rid of police, it'll just be Wild West, it'll be crime everywhere. But really, that's not the case at all. Yeah, so my son woke up, so sorry about that. Probably got about 10-20 minutes before he finishes breakfast and stuff. So let's get this going. Yeah, as we talked about with the Matt Christiansen video, he did a lot of building up these straw man arguments about defunding the police. And so I wanted to address that, did some research on it, and just wanted to talk a little bit about why his position is either misinformed or straight up a lie. If you go back and watch the response video I did, it's very obvious that there's one of two things happening. He either has not even done the most basic research about what the position is, or he's intentionally misrepresenting the position to make it sound more ridiculous and more far-fetched. So we're talking about defund and dismantle the police. Do some people want to get rid of all police? Yes. Some people want to get rid of all police, and in an ideal world, we would live in a world without police, because we wouldn't need any. And that's the ideal, that's the dream, right? That's what utopia is a world where everyone has what they need, and we don't need police. But we don't live there, so law enforcement officers are not going to be absent from our lives. What we're saying is that it is past beyond time to reconsider what the job of a police officer is, especially in major cities where police departments are given hundreds of millions, if not over $1 billion every year for their budget. Their funding comes at the expense of health departments, mental health assistance, homelessness support and prevention, and education. Defunding the police means taking some, if not a good portion, of their yearly budget and investing it in unarmed, highly trained emergency response teams, as well as in community resources like education, healthcare, housing, the necessary things for people to survive and thrive in the world. Most of what 911 is used for is not anything that requires someone to use or even to have a gun. And when you combine that with the realities of police training consisting of, on average, 13 to 19 weeks, you get people who are not equipped to handle the vast majority of the calls that they receive. Now, when we were talking about Matt and his responses to specifically the 911 portion, he said people are calling he put the straw man of people are not calling the police, but at the same time they're calling 911 for non-emergencies. It was a very bad straw man that didn't really make any sense when you dug down into it. It was just a thing that sounded good to him. What Matt is referencing here, he specifically referenced Baltimore, Minneapolis, and Chicago in his video. First of all, Minneapolis already spends the least of those 3 cities on their police force, which, while still an absolute ton, is not the best example of what defunding police would look like, because their budget is already comparatively very well distributed among community resources mixed with policing. So I wanted to look at and talk to you guys about some graphs here. So let me pull this up. So this is something. So there. So this is the graphic I found of a breakdown of different cities and their police spending. And you see up here, New York City, far and away the most spend on police. This is the total police spending, but this is the percentage of the general fund expenditure. And so New York City has $4.9 billion on the police force, but that's only 8.2% of their general budget for the city. So when you look at comparatively, it's actually relatively low compared to everything else. And then you look at New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Down here you've got Baltimore, and then way down here you have Minneapolis. And what you see here, Los Angeles 25%, but Chicago 39%, 30%, 40%, 29%, 35%. We're hovering between 25 and 40% of the budget of a city, of the entire city, is going to just police force. And that's what people are saying. Maybe we need to retake a look at what this means, how we can reinvest this in different strategies that can get us better results than just more cops. And so taking a look at what this is actually meaning is community services. This is just a article about what the defunding police movement would look like currently. And they're taking $45 million, which sounds like a lot, but remember, it's $163 million. So they're taking 45 of that 163 and redistributing that to community services. That is, and it says here, violence prevention programs, youth homelessness programs, opioid task force, and mental health response team. Why would that be bad? Why are we saying, let's treat the problems of opioid use, let's take on mental health issues, let's help end youth homelessness? Why would that be bad? I challenge any conservative to explain to me why youth homelessness should not be ended. Explain to me, without being a classist or a racist, why we need to hold children responsible for their own housing. Because that's what youth homelessness is. It is literal children who have no roof, no home. They have no security. And so how can we expect them to not only educate themselves, to become productive members of society, when society has very clearly failed them? This is what we're talking about. We are talking about helping people escape cycles of violence and abuse and homelessness and poverty, and avoiding the traps that hundreds and thousands of people every year fall into. But that is a bad thing, because it takes away from the police force. It's not a valid argument. Solving the problems that cause crimes is better than punishing people for those crimes. If you can solve the person's problems, they will not commit crimes. That's a fact. No one wants to be a criminal. No one wants to. And so ending those systems that have been put in place, breaking those cycles of poverty and violence and abuse, is more important than paying more police to punish people when they commit crimes. End of story. It's more valuable. It's a better return on your investment. So anyway, moving on from that. So I wanted to look at this one. This is a breakdown of the Baltimore City funds. And so you can see here, this is a breakdown of the departments that are getting this. And you can see why the police numbers are so staggering. $509 million is far and away more important to the city of Baltimore than civil rights, art, homelessness, housing, economic development, the Department of frickin' Health. The fact is that these things are being spent so much, and so much of it is being spent on things that are not necessary. Not only the military and militarization of police, which doesn't make any sense. You're not a standing military force. You don't need standing military gear. That needs to be ended. Take a chunk out of that. But even if you took even half of the police budget of Baltimore, split it evenly across everything else, the police would still be the most funded department in the city. I want to take a look at Chicago. And if you can see this, police, $1.6 billion. Other public safety services, so that is like fire, ambulances, mental health, everything else having to do with public safety rolled into one thing, is not even half of what the police are being paid. And you look down here, you're looking at streets and sanitation, city development. Why are these things not being funded as much as the police? Why are we not pumping? Take half of it. Just cut out half. Could you imagine what $800 million into public school would do? Because it's not getting anywhere close to that kind of funding. $1.6 billion is so much. And as we'll talk about in a second, most of that is not necessary. If we can eliminate what we need police for, we don't need to spend it on the police. We can spend it on other things because we don't need the police to do most of what they're being asked to do right now. And just to give you one more thing about Chicago, and then we'll move on. Here is the Public Safety Department of Police. Where is it? Chicago Police Department, $1.6 billion. It's actually $1.78 billion. The entire community services budget. So that's public health. The entire Department of Public Health, Human Relations, Office of People with Disabilities, Family Services, and the library, all of that totals barely $1 billion. If you don't see an issue with that, why are we even here? If you don't see an issue with the fact that the people in charge of punishing and enforcing law is more valuable than improving the public welfare, we have to start way back over again and talk about what is actually important. Because if you don't think improving people's lives is important, we have a bigger issue, and we need to resolve that issue before we can even move on to talking about police. So going back, I took a look at all the data, police data from Minneapolis so far in 2020. It is constantly updated, and so this is actually as of Friday that I pulled this data and started doing this specific analysis. It was the last time I checked. And so looking at the incident reports. So these are actual crimes that are filed by the police so far in 2020. There's 9,305. So basically, if you take out burglary, vehicle theft, after the fact sexual assault, all of which are counted in the violent crime rate, because they are violent crimes. They just didn't happen with someone able to respond. So if you take out all of those things, that number totals to 7,948, that an armed officer response is not necessary. So if you count just the things, so we're talking about domestic violence, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, assault with intent to cause harm, any kind of assault, any kind of actual robbery taking place where the crime was ongoing. Those are where an armed officer would, I think everyone can agree, would need to be called. Somebody who can deal with the situation, especially if it's something with assault with a deadly weapon, assault, sexual assault, domestic violence, something where somebody who can take control of the situation would be needed. That is only occurring out of the 6 months that we have been here, 1,357 times. That means an armed officer was not needed to respond 85% of the time. And this tracks with all the other research I've done into what former police officers, current police officers are saying. 9 times out of 10, an armed officer is not needed immediately during the response. And I know you're saying, well, why would you not want an armed officer there? And it's because if you're asking a police officer to be a traffic cop and a security officer and a community service officer and a social worker and a therapist and a marriage counselor and an investigator and a detective and a forensic specialist. That's right there, just 9 jobs. Maybe 3 of which a police officer is actually qualified to do. We don't need police officers, armed officers, responding when somebody says that they have been assaulted. That it's happened, it's gone, the person is not there anymore. They're just calling for assistance. What we should do then is send a therapist, send an investigator, send a forensics specialist to take all of the evidence, to take all of the information, to work through the trauma that this person just experienced, to work through the trauma with them, to help them in their life. What you don't need is an armed officer going there and taking details and some facts about the R word, because that is a huge thing through all kinds of research, because I am not someone who wants to just put this out there just because I think I can and I think I'm right. I actually want to have data and information to back up what I'm saying, so I'm not just a talking head. But if you look at facts about the R word, only 4 out of 10 are even reported. 40%. Could you imagine if somebody burglarized your home, somebody came in and took your stuff, but you only 4 out of 10 people responded by calling the authorities? That's crazy. Of those reported, only 1 out of 3 will actually have someone identified and charged for the crime. Also, when I think it's like 60% of assaulters are people known to the victim, how is that even possible that we only have a 1/3 of reported assaults have someone identified and charged? It's insane. And a contributing factor to this, it's absolutely unclear how many of these exist, but it's estimated that hundreds and thousands of kits are sitting in police stations untested, just sitting there. DNA evidence, just sitting there, untested, not being moved. If you think that this is going well, please explain to me how a 40% reporting rate and a 33% indictment rate for a sexual violent crime is a good thing. Please explain to me how you think that police are the best people for this job. If we want to have our police officers be therapists, then we need to have them trained to do so. That means we need to have them with master's degrees. Because guess what? That's what therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, that's what they have to do. Nurses have a 4-year degree. Doctors go to school for 10 plus years before they're certified to do what they do. But we're expecting police officers, many without college degrees, on average 13 to 19 weeks of training to be as good as them. We're setting them up to fail. We're setting people up to not be able to do a good job. That is why people in our communities don't feel safe. That's why not every person feels safe. Because the people who are responding and are charged with our safety are not equipped to do the job that we are asking them to do. So instead of saying we need to not defund the police, fine, let's train the police. Let's demand that they be better. But problem is, we've done that. And every step of the way, any kind of reform or change is met with belligerent resistance from police officers, from police unions, from chiefs, from conservatives, saying, why would we not just accept that blue lives matter, that these people are doing a good job, and we need to just thank them, because they're not doing a good job. They're doing a good job for some people, but I'm going to do another video. I probably won't get to it today, but we're going to do another video where I'm going to show why this is not working. And so moving on to my final note on this topic, either Matt Christiansen doesn't know this, doesn't know any of this stuff, in which case he shouldn't be talking about it with any kind of authority, or he does know this, understands that police officers are often not needed, and is intentionally misleading his listenership, his viewership, and attempting to sway the public as a whole, which is by far worse. Either way, whether he's too lazy or too ignorant to do the research on the topic, or he's intentionally twisting and omitting facts to make himself and his position seem better or more logical, he's acting as a damaging force to public discourse on this topic. It serves no one's interest to be so arrogant and dismissive of another person's views the intellectual arrogance and the super macho alpha male mentality that we have developed as a country. We're saying, I don't know, or I don't have enough information yet, or this is so new we have no roadmap for what this is going to look like, is being plastered by one side of the spectrum as a sign of weakness rather than humility. The same side that seems to believe they have all the answers, despite evidence, and sometimes vast amounts of it, to the contrary. It's pure arrogance and hubris to position yourself as the absolute authority on any topic, especially when there are literal experts in the field that are telling you you're wrong. There's scores and scores and scores of people and videos and testimonies that say that the policing system is broken. It is rotten. This issue is so deep-rooted in police culture that is why we need to stop, take everything apart, build it from the ground up. We can do this. It will be better for everyone across the board. Even Matt Christiansen, even the Brawny Bro himself will be better if everyone is safer. The problem is they don't want you to feel safe. They want you to feel that there is somebody right outside the door. The only person stopping that criminal from coming into your house is the law, the fist of law and order. That's not reality. Nobody wants to steal your stuff. Nobody wants to come in and break into your house and take your stuff in the middle of the night, despite what they might say. There's no boogeyman. There are real criminals and real crimes happening. And the problem is we're so fixated on what doesn't matter. We're so interested in preserving the heritage of the police, the system that we've grown up existing in. You're so terrified of change that you won't even listen. So I'm asking everyone here, everyone watching this, please listen to each other, love each other, understand that we're all coming from the same place. We all want the best life possible. Friends, neighbors, please, let's sit down at the table. Let's just talk. There's no politics. There's no points. Let's just talk. I want to talk to people to see what it is that they're so afraid of. We can do this together, but it has to be done together. If we are coming at this and we do not come together, it will not end here. We could change the world forever. We could become, once again, the shining city on a hill. We could become the ideal for the world again. People spent 50 years trying to be us. We were the pinnacle of progress and achievement. Everyone wanted to be like America. And now no one wants to be like America. And going back to a system of oppression and violence is not the answer. I want to work with this. Let's work together. Let's come to the table and get stuff done. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video, guys. Look to put a challenge out to you who are still watching here. Down in the comments, I want to start doing some interviews with other creators and news people and anybody that is in this kind of spectrum. So put down in the comments who you think I should reach out to and try to talk to. I want to start having good conversations about this topic, not the single-sided I say, you say, I say, you say. Let's actually sit down and have a discussion about this. So let me know in the comments who you want me to reach out to and try to get on the show. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, all that kind of good stuff. I really appreciate everything that you guys have been doing for me. Still learning this whole YouTube and video thing, but I really like where we've been going, and I like what I've been able to talk about. But with that, guys, thank you again. I'll see you guys next time we come to truth.